take you out of that package now to move you straight to developments coming out of Pretoria. We understand now that the ANC is just about to convene a briefing. Let's listen in. And of course, as we did lay the foundations there, but earlier on with our colleagues that are on the ground, Ayanda Nyathi as well as Nhlanhla Kgatlana, just, giving us those building blocks towards this very important moment unfolding there just ahead of the National Convention, which is set to kick off the process as well as the spirit of the national dialogue. We heard there in conversations as well as in reflection with some of the people there in attendance. Now, South Africa's first national convention is taking place on the 15th as well as on the 16th of August, and this is at the University of South Africa's UNISA main campus there in Pretoria. We see that press briefing has just started. Let's take you there to listen in.
National Dialogue Convention. We would know as South Africans how significant this moment in our history is, and we trust as the ANC that all South Africans from all walks of life, white or black, African or colored or Indian, Christian, Muslim, and all of the different religions are represented in our country. Organized civil society in the form of non-government organizations, the form of public benefit organizations. We trust that they are going to utilize this opportunity for what it is worth. And what it is, that is about having a conversation as South Africans about those things that are bedding platforms: crime, unemployment, the land question, gender-based violence, and also talking about a vision that tells everyone about the South Africa we are and the South Africa we want for the future. Conversations about patriotism, conversations about national sovereignty, conversations about our foreign policy as it stands at the moment. But more important from our perspective as the ANC, conversations about how to defend the gains of democracy and also how to advance and push back against corruption, crime and corruption, both corporate sector corruption as well as public sector corruption, but also corruption that is abetted and enabled by us as citizens to continue. And so we do trust that by the end of this dialogue that proceeds into next year, that we all will have a common awareness about the things we must avoid and the things we must not be part of. I was just using corruption as an example. We will have a conversation about how to grow the economy, how to ensure that we've got inclusive economic growth in South Africa that has a job creation effect, and also how to ensure that we leverage some of our strengths, such as beneficiation of minerals resources. We are a country that is very rich in mineral resources. How to basically front load matters of that nature using the dialogue. The dialogue is not for politicians. The dialogue is not for one specific sector in society. The dialogue is for the people of South Africa and by the people of South Africa. It of course builds on the historic moments in history where we've had dialogues of this nature. The convention that took place at the Congress of the People in Kliptown, Soweto, where the Lodestar document, the Freedom Charter, was adopted, followed the same pattern. Of course, we're doing this under new conditions of technology and advancements in that area, in communication technologies. Back then, people used to write letters and walk from different parts of South Africa to get to the Congress of the People. Women fought to have their voice heard at the Congress of the People. So this dialogue is nothing new to the South Africa that we know, because even the democracy that we enjoyed was achieved through a negotiated settlement. But there are matters that were treated as matters that must be followed through post after we installed the first democratic government. And some of those matters are the matters that must be ventilated by the national dialogue. I just used the example of the land question. That is one of them. But having said all of this, we are here to participate, to listen, and to go back and reflect, make our own submission to the process that is led by government, by the presidency. We are here just as stakeholders alongside a number of the progressive forces in South Africa. I've seen COSATU here, I've seen others. I'm certain that all of us are going to be participating in this process with the commitment that it does require from all of us as South Africans.
Mahlengi, there seems to be a ridiculous burden on this national dialogue to suddenly be a silver bullet for all of South Africa's ills. Corruption we know exists. That's what citizens are going to tell you. We haven't been able to fix it. There are a number of the 6 pillars of the objectives of this national dialogue that South Africans are well aware of. There's a huge burden that if we finally have us come to, well, I don't want to say come to Jesus moment, but we have this dialogue and nothing happens and the same problems persist, we're going to be in a worse off position than we are now. How do you respond to that criticism?
Well, the organizers of the dialogue, the preparatory committee, surely they've been speaking to these matters throughout the week. But I would say that on behalf of the ANC, our approach to the national dialogue is that it must be a conversation about the future South Africa we want. And those matters that you are indicating, Iman, are some of those. But that is not meant to stifle the work of government. The anti-corruption efforts are underway. We've had so many reportage by, for example, the SIU on proclamations that have been issued by the president, but also on the assets being forfeited for those that have looted the state, and those that have looted some elements of corporate sector as well as our own SOEs. There's a lot that is being done to fight corruption. There's a report that the presidency released not so long ago, giving an account of how much money has been recovered through the Zondo Commission, for instance. And that is a narrative that's often lost to South Africans. The issue was about the fact that we spent 1 billion, almost 1 billion rands on the State Capture Commission. But the report from the presidency demonstrates that triple of that has been recovered. In other words, it was worthy to have that particular commission. Then I will speak about the ongoing work that is being done by the Hawks, speak about the fact that South Africans now are actually coming forward to report instances of corruption at a time in history where it's never been done before since 1994, certainly to my mind, where South Africans are waking up to say all of us are complicit if we keep quiet about instances of corruption, both in the corporate sector as well as in the civil society or sector as well, and in government. So that is what I would say. The work of government must continue. The work of government must continue alongside the national dialogue, and the dialogue must feed into the ongoing work of governance in our country. Power?
Just a quick one before we go. Former ANC President Thabo Mbeki is not set to attend the national dialogue. For years he's been calling for the national dialogue. Just your comments as the ANC, and does this signifies, thank you, tension between him and President Cyril Ramaphosa?
Well, I'm not aware of the tensions between, just to your last point, I'm not aware of such tensions. We certainly don't. The two presidents meet occasionally, including most recently at the National Executive Committee meeting, where President Mbeki was asked to make a comment on a number of issues that were being ventilated in that, and it's including this national dialogue. So there is no rivalry between the two presidents, certainly not at a political level. That would be the one thing. The second thing is, of course, to say that some legacy foundations have decided to pull out of this particular segment of the national conversation. I'm not certain that they pulled out from the entire process, and there are legacy foundations are of the preparatory committee. Certainly that is my understanding.
Thank you.
Mahlengi, how do you respond to high political parties like Solidarity that have said the ANC is actually hijacking this national convention for itself to actually garner votes ahead of next year's elections?
as journalists, you ought to ask the question, ought to ask them to provide evidence of the ANC hijacking this process. The ANC is here like all other stakeholders in society. So in the absence of that kind of evidence, it will just become hollow. It becomes the same culture and the same tendency and habit by the forces, including the extreme right-wing forces in the country, to drag the ANC into any matter, even where we are actually just participating as a political option that exists in South Africa and is also in government. The ANC has not hijacked any process. We ourselves are going to be making our own submission to the process. The ANC has been insistent that the process must be citizen-led. We stand with those that say the process must be citizen-led. We ourselves are organizing our structures, our branches, all of them. They are going to be participating in this process by making their own submissions within the communities. Remember that the process outlined by the task team includes going into regions, into provinces, into districts, and as part of that process, sections of the ANC will participate. We need to understand and frown upon the continuing extremism that we see in our country, where any attempt at building national unity, because what this is all about is about national unity. We need to continually frown upon those attempts. There is nothing in the work of the ANC that would suggest to anyone that we have an upper hand in the preparation for this national dialogue. We are conversing with all others that are participating in the process. The churches are participating in the process. A number of religious formations are participating at the senior level in terms of the preparation. And so we will respect the processes of the national dialogue for as long as it is required.
I can't not ask you about the situation with General Mahlengi. He was in Iran this week, made political statements. What is the ANC's view on that diplomatic line?
Well, we will defer to the state and will defer to the president. The president has expressed his displeasure through the presidency spokesperson, Vincent Magwenya. We are following that carefully. We believe that that's a total overreach to get to matters that are sensitive and matters that don't belong to a Defence Force General, but matters that have a lot to do with our international relations and cooperation policy. So obviously we will condemn that. Colleagues, thank you very much.
Well, that was the ANC spokesperson, Mahlengi, there, going there, just, giving her remarks with regards to what role will they be playing as a political organization. Also, Ayanda there dispelling claims that there is tension between former President Thabo Mbeki and also the current President Cyril Ramaphosa. She also touched on the issue that the ANC might be using this to gain support or love in the hearts of many South Africans, saying that she doesn't believe that the ANC is using this to garner support or the hearts of many South Africans, also alluding to the fact that it's not the first time that the country is having a national dialogue. You know that the president has always said that South Africa, it's a country that believes in engaging. But with that being said, let me take it to you, Ayanda, there to just talk to us with regards to what you have on that side. Ayanda.